My name is Yolanda Dudley. This is my home observation presentation for early childhood mental health, where Dr. Keith Cates is the instructor. To start, the three observations that I was able to get were with a family, a caregiver who was the mom, and an infant who was 12 months old. Periodically, the brother, who was 6 years old, entered the room where there was interactions. There is also a father in the household who was not a part of the observations, uh, mainly due to work responsibilities, and so mom was able to spend much more time with the infant and the brother when the observations were done. The father did come through during the first observation. He slowly walked through, going out the door, did acknowledge the infant, and the infant acknowledged her father. But that was the only interaction that I was able to get between the two of them. So the main caregiver here is the mother and the 12-month-old infant. The observations were all done at the house, the family home. The first one was done in the living room slash small play area, where there was a bookshelf um, that consisted of books and toys that the children were able to use and to put back into this bookshelf where it was out of sight. The first interaction was a good one. This wasn't the first time that I had met the infant. So she has seen me before. She was able to recognize that I was a person that she noticed, but she never stopped doing what she was doing to interact with the mother. The infant was very attentive during that first observation. The parent was very, very attentive during the observation, and they were both very personable and loving, and showed care throughout the observations as well. The mother was the caregiver, and was always watching the infant to see what the needs were. The mother was always there to show the infant that she heard her, or to acknowledge her. She asked questions many times throughout that first observation. Had to do some redirecting a few times just because the infant was slightly distracted, but for the most part, she was able to spend some good quality time with the infant in the room together. Surprisingly, during all three observations, the infant chose books as her interactive piece. She apparently loves books and wanted to read books with her mother. There were other books, other toys inside the cabinet during the first observation, but she chose the books. Each time throughout the observations, the infant would choose her own book, and she would take it to her mother, and then she would sit in her mother's lap, and they would read the book together, whether it was pointing to pictures or repeating words or just listening to the mother read through each of the books. The infant showed that she was very interested in what was happening. There would be times when she would stop the mom mid-sentence while she was reading, and she would call her mom's name, and she would say mom, and she would point to sometimes a letter in the book, sometimes a color in the book. Mom would ask questions while she was reading, and this made the infant smile very much. That was one of the things that I noticed. She smiled a lot. The infant smiled a lot. She seemed to be enjoying the interaction between she and her caregiver, which was her mother. She seemed to be enjoying the time spent together to accomplish all the things for the observation. I know for her, this was just interaction between her and mom. She was getting to talk, she was getting to sit, and she was getting the opportunity to just be with her mom, and not having to do anything else. They often looked at each other, even when they were in the larger room. They sat next to each other. They sat very closely to each other. Even though there was a sofa inside the larger playroom during the second and third observation, they never sat on the sofa. They still sat on the floor. They seemed to enjoy sitting close to each other, sitting next to one another, so that they could interact a lot easier. During the second observation, they did get up and move around the room, but they only went over closer to the TV because the infant realized that the remote was lying on one of her toys, and she picked it up and she wanted to watch TV. So that was the only time that she even recognized anything other than books and puzzles. The infant would also go get her own puzzle. She would bring the puzzle to her mother, and show her that she wanted to play with the puzzle. Even though the infant cannot talk as clearly as older infants, of course, she was very verbal. She was very good at using her voice to show excitement. She used her voice to show that she was upset about things. She used her voice to remind her brother that she was in the room, sometimes just making noise, but she used her voice quite often. She used a pacifier from time to time, and so even when she had that pacifier in her mouth, she was able to use sounds to show excitement, and sounds to show when she was irritated, or to get the attention of her mother. So they were both, very attentive to one another. The caregiver made sure she made eye contact often. She made sure that she was able to give directions for what she needed. She modeled the tone of voice that she wanted the infant to use. She also modeled the behavior that she wanted the infant to show. Even when things didn't go as planned, when the infant seemed to be tired of the book and would get up and at least walk away, or she wanted to throw a toy across the room, the caregiver was very in tune to what was happening. She never raised her voice once. She was very adamant about what the infant was going to do and not going to do. Even in the last observation, when the infant wanted to, started to throw puzzle pieces, she had seen her brother throw a truck across the room. And so she didn't throw anything initially, but she that she saw it. She looked in the direction of the toy that had been thrown across the room. So mother immediately stopped what she was doing and addressed the situation with the brother, and reminded him that he was being watched by the sister, and that wasn't a very good choice that he had made to throw a toy across the room. One, that it could have been dangerous, it could have hit someone, but two, it just wasn't the right thing to do in a room with windows, in a room that one could have been possibly hurt. So shortly after, even just during regular play, the infant was picked up the puzzle pieces and started to throw them. She made sure she looked at her mother each time. And so mom would just simply use the same tone of voice, which was pretty calm. And she made eye contact with the infant to say, no, you shouldn't be throwing. No, you're not going to do this, or no, you're not going to do that. And so the infant a few times continued to throw, but she would look at her mother each time before throwing. She eventually stopped, and the mother address the fact that I understand that you are frustrated, and she was standing on her knees, pretty close to the infant when she shared this information. I understand that you're frustrated, but you're not going to throw things, or you're not able to throw things. And so that was a very pivotal moment. The infant almost immediately stopped throwing the puzzle pieces, and she went back to the shelf to grab another book. So throughout the observations, I learned that it seems that the two of them have a very understanding relationship. Um, the emotions that they do show are in response to what is going on, what is being asked, what is done that is right, what is done that is wrong. There were lots of emotions shown, mainly by the infant. Mom was very evenly killed, right? When she was making a statement, she never showed the infant that whether she was mad or she was disappointed. She did use that language throughout the observations to say, oh, that's not okay, or oh, I don't like that, or oh, I'm disappointed that you did that. And she used bigger words like disappointed with the brother when he was a part of the observation. The infant repeated some of those words. When mom says, I understand that you're frustrated, the infant was able to say frustrated. And then mom would go on to say, yes, you are not happy with what I told you to do, but you cannot throw your toys, or you cannot throw the puzzle pieces. And so mom was very intentional in making sure that the infant understood what was going on. So, if I were the caregiver, I think I would, my interactions, I would feel like I was doing the right thing, right? The caregiver made sure that she was attentive. She made sure that she addressed issues in the moment. She made sure that she reaffirmed the infant. Just knowing that you are able to spend the time with the infant, with your child, and giving them those moments of quietness and the moments of play and the moments of interaction, just makes you feel good as a parent and as a caregiver. Being able to set the tone for each playtime. When she got on the floor with the infant, she didn't sit far away from the infant. She was always very close and always going with the flow of what the infant wanted to do, and letting her know, oh, you made a good choice. Yes, I'm happy to read the book, and making the infant feel as if it was okay for her to be there. As far as the child, making sure that the child, more than likely felt that her mother was interested in what was happening. She was interested in what was going on, thinking that the child maybe felt loved and cared for, and she felt seen and she felt heard, especially with the proximity and the constant looking at each other, the eye contact, just the engagement overall. And then for me, I found myself smiling throughout the observations. I found myself just remembering that there's goodness in the world, that there are people who care about their infants, their children, and they are listening, and that they are being attentive, and that they are noticing when things are not beneficial. Like noticing that the child is tired, or noticing that she may need to take a break. So I found myself smiling throughout the observations. I found myself thinking of times when I've been in similar situations, and remembering times when I made very similar choices, and times when I made choices that were total opposite. So just reminders that how things could go, or how things could have been handled differently, even in my part. But so I definitely identified with the mother, with the caregiver. I identified with her in the family the most because I have a 7 year old, and I know that that 7 year old needs lots of attention. And so it's very easy to not show um, the attention that you know that they are wanting, especially when they want to be they want to be close, and they want to feel seen, and they want to feel heard, and then they just want the time that you are giving them. So I could definitely identify with the mother. Um, I felt that there wasn't anybody that I couldn't identify with. I'm the oldest of five. So I definitely identified with the brother when he was in the room, when he wanted the attention of the mother. I've definitely been there where my mom needed to show attention to others when I was in the room, but I was able to sit aside, allow my mother to show what was going on, and this parent definitely did that. She was able to go back and forth between both children when they were both in the room. Um, I never noticed myself being judgmental. I was very fond of the mother and her parenting skills. And I actually was able to share that with her, and she was very appreciative that I shared that I thought that she was doing an amazing job as a mother. Um, so I never felt myself being judgmental. Um, I was able to identify with what was happening in the room. Again, just remembering how things were when my infant was that young. Um, there were times that I felt really compassionate, especially when the infant would cry. And I could see the mother taking deep breaths. I could see her visibly taking deep breaths. And then I could see her, almost see her thinking before she spoke. She took those deep breaths. She made eye contact. You could tell she thought before she spoke. And it was very, um, it was really good to see the mom take control of the situation without losing control. I thought that part was simply amazing. And I definitely told mom that that was one of my favorite parts is watching her stay calm and watching her interact with both children when they were in the room, and then just showing the infant the attention that she wanted. Even when she put the book away and she just sat, or when they just looked at each other, or when they smiled, or when they laughed, um, that was always good. So I never felt judgmental during the observations. Um, didn't have any hot buttons that it pressed for me. Again, the mom did things in a way that just made you really think about motherhood and how good it can be, and how it is definitely a learning experience. Um, I did catch myself wondering what the mom would do when the child, was irritated or wanted to throw a toy, or actually threw a toy, or actually got really loud when she didn't want to do something. But I found myself watching both very closely. Um, but definitely watching the mother, watching her body language. She never stood over the infant. She always stayed eye level. She always made sure that she was heard, but not overly loud. She made sure that she was right there with the infant in proximity. Um, there were no emotional triggers for me during these observations. Um, Again, I was very interested in how the parent was going to handle her situations because she had done such a good job previously. My perspectives um, on this interaction was that, again, the mom was doing an amazing job. She was I was very um, open with her to share how well I thought she'd done, and that I assumed that things would be chaotic because the infant was a 12-month-old. The interactions I probably would describe as low to moderately active. There was no running, there was no kicking or hitting. For the most part, I think there may have been one time when the infant attempted to hit and the mom was able to redirect. And so that was one of the assumptions that I thought that it was going to be much more active than it was. But it was a calm space, but it was a space where you could feel that the infant and the mother, enjoyed each other. That they enjoyed their time spent together, that they were able to move throughout the observation. They kind of flowed with each other. So even when the infant was ready to change books or change puzzles, it was just okay. We'll do the next thing. Okay, you want to read a book? Okay, you don't want a book anymore. Okay, you want to look at a puzzle, and it just flowed. It just flowed from one thing to the other. Um, I I was able to look through the lens of a mother, and then also just understand how influential a mother can be, um, how we set the tone, how caregivers sets the tone for during interactions. Just being reminded that because the infant yells doesn't mean that you have to. And if the tone of the next interaction, you want it to be calm, then you have to model that. And so this parent, in my opinion, did a great job of that. Um, she never raised her voice, and I said that before, but she was very mindful of how she was responding, even when she had to repeat something over multiple times. She just kind of maybe sat up a little bit taller, made more eye contact, just a little bit more sturdy in her tone, but she never raised her voice. She never got loud. Um, I'm not sure that I missed anything. Um, I don't know that I left out anything. I was hoping that there was more interaction, maybe a little bit more movement, but I think the observations were they were good overall. It was a comfortable space for the family. It was a more controlled space for the family, and I think that's what the caregiver was more concerned about. And even the playroom, with all the opportunities, still gave way for different things to be done. The infant just had her pick. She wanted to play with those books. She wanted to read books. She wanted mom to read to her. And then she wanted to play with the puzzles. Again, that one time where she wanted to turn on the TV was mainly a time that she was that kind of ventured out. Um, Other than that, I think again that the mom played a vital role in how things turned out. I think that many of the interactions were they were set up in a way because of the mom's interaction overall. The infant, again, the mom was able to say that they were going to continue, even without me observing. She was enjoying the time with her infant and with her son, that she was going to continue to gather on Sundays with some undivided attention and some time that she was sharing with the children. Um, I can't think of anything that I may have left out or failed to consider. Again, I did consider the timing, which worked well for the family, which was on Sunday evening. Saturdays were really busy for the family. They travel a lot. And so Sundays was kind of the wind down time. And there was one day, I think the first interaction we did maybe right after school on a Monday. But other than that, it was winding down. So it wasn't first thing in the morning. I did consider the timing of the day. I considered all the things that mom has to do. Mom is a school counselor like me, and so she is busy seeking children out all day long and interacting with children. And so I was able to give her a little bit of time to have some time for herself, and then have a little bit of time at the end of the day or midday on Sunday to observe. Again, I think that the the identification with the mom solely came because there were times that I wanted to make sure um, that I was uh, not taking away from the mom. There were many times when I was avoiding eye contact with the with the infant, because again, this infant has seen me before, and so she was very intrigued initially by me being in the room. But again, that part really didn't stop the infant. Although she saw me, she was more interested in making some time for her mother, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, the the area of the house was quiet. I think it was a good place. The brother was very respectful in knowing and understanding that there was an observation going on, that I was there for purpose. And I think mom had kind of let him know that, that I was there to kind of watch them as they played. I will say that I don't think that much changed with the interactions, simply because I was there. They seemed to carry on and carry through each interaction as if no one else was in the room, other than periodically looking at me or periodically moving towards where I was sitting. They continued to interact with one another in a way that lets you know that this is something that they do often, and that this is something that they do on a regular basis, and that it is something that they enjoy. They continue to do what they do. Emotions were shown. None of the emotions were held back by the infant for sure. Emotions were shown by brother a few times, and the mom was just evenly killed the entire time. The fact that I know that she is also like that on the job was pretty interesting to me, because she is that exact same way with the high school students that we work with. Her tone of voice, her modeling of tone, and her modeling of what she thinks should be done carries over into her household. And so I don't necessarily think that she attempts to change that often. That is just the type of person that she is, and it works well for her. Again, the infant was very much the boss of the house. I do think that she enjoys time with her mother, and I think that she enjoys the attention that her mother was able to give her. The family overall seemed to get along well. Even when the dad walked through for that initial observation, the infant smiled, acknowledged her dad by calling his name, and continued to do what she was doing. They were very into what was next, and they were very into each other. Again, just a gentle reminder that the things in the world don't have to always be stop and go, that you have to be in the hustle and bustle of life, but you can stop. You can acknowledge those that are in your presence, and you can choose how you respond to people that are around you, even when they know better and when they don't. That every moment can be a teachable moment, that we have to slow down and we have to think about what we are saying and what we are doing, and that every little thing that we do matters, and that there are people out there in the world who see what we do and who are proud of us and who are watching and who are taking notes. Even as a mother of four of my own, none as small as 12 months old, but I found it very, um, I found it very peaceful to watch the family. I found it very, um, it was a very loving environment, and you could feel that. Um, you could feel that time has been taken to intentionally show up for the children. And so I was glad that I had that opportunity. Glad that I had the opportunity to observe um, such a wonderful family. And actually, I would love to do more, just to see how much the infant grows within the next year. So again, this was my home observation presentation of my family, and I hope that you've enjoyed it.